Hello students and welcome back. This is the discussion of the questions of chapter 3. Chapter 3 is called Everything is Different. Okay, in this chapter, if we remember that everything is changed for David. At first, we talked about how David spent his time in Yarmouth with Begoty's family, how he enjoyed playing with little Emily, how he enjoyed collecting shells and stones at the beach, and he confessed his love to her. But when he was going to leave Yarmouth to return back to his home, and he was excited to see his mother once again, but there was something wrong at the house. Everything was changed in David's house. What happened? As soon as he arrived at the house, Begoty took him to the kitchen and told him about his new father, who was Mr. Murdstone. She told him that his mother remarried, and now his new father was Mr. Murdstone. David didn't understand what this is meant, but he saw the changes that happened around the house. He saw how his mother Clara was changed. She didn't welcome him at the gate as she used to. She didn't treat him with the same affection and love as she used to. She was controlled and she was held back by Mr. Murdstone. Also, David found out that his room was changed. It wasn't near his mother's room anymore, but it became far away from her in another part of the house. And he also saw that Mr. Murdstone brought a new dog who hated David as soon as he saw David. Now we're gonna discuss the questions. The first question: what was common between David and Emily? Who looked after her now? So if you remember that the common thing between David and Emily, that they are both fatherless. David's father died before he was born, and Emily's father died in the sea. Who looked after Emily? If we remember that it was Mr. Begoty, or Begoty's brother, who took care of Emily because her father died at the sea. Okay. Emily was shy when she first saw David, but this changed later. Explain. At first, if you remember, when Emily saw David, she ran and hid because she was shy. It was her first time to see a strange boy. But when David stayed at the house for a few days, she began to overcome this shyness, and she began to sit beside him at the table and play with him and go to the beach with him. So what did they do? They walked to the beach with each other, collecting shells and stones, and even he confessed his love to her and she confessed her love back to him. What do you think? You have got a new father. Comment. Who said this? If you remember, this Begoty said these words when they came back, she and David, when they came back from Yarmouth, and as soon as they arrived at the house, she stopped David, she took him to the kitchen and told him the truth. She was hesitant at the beginning, but then she told him that he got a new father. David didn't understand what is the meaning of a new father. She told him that his mother remarried and now she is married to Mr. Murdstone. David didn't like that, of course, because he saw that Mr. Murdstone is controlling his mother, and he stopped his mother from showing affection to him, and he is getting all his mother's attention. Describe the meeting between David and Clara after he came back home from Yarmouth. Okay, if you remember this part, when David returned back from Yarmouth, he expected that his mother was going to meet him at the gate and welcome him back, but he didn't understand why she didn't come outside. When Begoty told him that his mother remarried and now she has a new husband who is Mr. Murdstone, David went inside the house and saw the changes. The first one, he saw that his mother was sitting at the chair. She, she was doing something, and she wanted to rush and hug him with love, but someone stopped her. Who was that? He was Mr. Murdstone. He stopped her and told her, "Control yourself. Don't shower the kid with affection and kisses." So she kissed David shyly and patted him on the shoulder. Then she sat back at her chair. This is the first thing that he saw, the first change he saw on his mother. And though David couldn't understand why his mother was acting like that, but he knew that it was he was Mr. Murdstone who was controlling her now. Everything seemed to have changed. Explain this statement in relation with what happened in this chapter to David, his mother, and the house. So, in this question, you are going to say everything that changed in the house, starting from David's mother, then his room, then you will talk about the dog, and that the house was controlled by Mr. Murdstone. So, all of these things, or all these three things that we said before, you're gonna repeat them in this question. What is the rising action in chapter 3? Okay, a rising action, we said before, a rising action is when the events start to complicate to reach a problem. The problem in this chapter was David meeting his mother after he returned back from Yarmouth. This is the problem, this is the main problem, or the main point, or the climax in this chapter. This is the rising action. Sorry, this is the climax. The rising action, what led to this part, it was when Peggotty took him to the kitchen and she started telling him that your mother remarried and now she got a new husband, and this husband is Mr. Murdstone. And though David didn't like the man, but he went inside the house to see his mother. But when he saw his mother, the climax here is that he's found his mother changed. She was controlled by Mr. Murdstone. So again, the rising action is when Peggotty was worried during the trip from Yarmouth to their back to their house, and when she took David into the kitchen and told him all about his mother and that she remarried and she has a new husband who called Mr. Murdstone. This is the rising action. Now, understand again, there is a difference between the rising action and the climax. The rising action, events led to the problem. Climax is the main problem in this chapter. The main problem in this chapter, that his mother changed, his room changed, everything changed in the house. What is the rising actions that led to this? You started from David leaving Yarmouth and Peggotty's talk with David in the kitchen. This is the rising action. Thank you for listening, and take notes of what the answers I said and start writing your own answers using them. Thank you, guys. Hello students, and welcome back. This is the